Look, you need to stop buying budget guitars. You need to stop buying budget guitars if, really, should be the title of this quick Saturday morning video. Hey, happy Saturday too, man. Just an old cat talking about guitars and life. Wife is off doing her thing, so I'm doing my thing in the guitar shop / it's just my study. Yeah, man, so let's talk about this budget guitar thing. Had some great comments, some great conversations this morning with a few people from some other videos that I've posted. You know, man, people who continue to say things like, you know, man, I'm just a die-hard, you know, Gibson guy, or I'm just a made in America Fender guy, and that's all I want to be. You know what? Hey, man, rock on with your bad selves. There ain't nothing I'm saying here that's trying to convince you to do anything. I am not like another kind of channel where some guitar company XYZ sends a YouTuber, a reviewer, a product, and they make it sound so great. You know, for me, man, all I'm trying to do is just share my journey, and I don't even know if anybody's out there listening or enjoying it. Actually, that's not true. I have heard from some people and who appreciate the videos. Hey, man, thanks for that. If you like this kind of content, if you enjoy this so-called channel, feel free to like the video, feel free to subscribe, that's fine. I am not making any money doing this, clearly. I'm not sponsored by anybody, or else I'd be wearing their shirt. I'm repping my Baltimore or your Baltimore Orioles. Because it's Saturday, that's what I do. Another day, another Baltimore Orioles shirt, that's what I say. So, when we talk about buying budget guitars, I'm not trying to convince anybody that a budget guitar is of the same quality or whatever of your favorite guitar brand. If you've got a brand and you're playing, you can afford guitars and that are much higher priced, and you're playing those, particularly those of you who are playing productively in gigging situations and doing shows and whatnot. Again, as I always say, rock on with your bad selves. I don't do a lot of gigging. I have a context. I play mostly in worship praise bands, a little rhythm and blues praise band. We do men's retreats. I play at church sometimes, conferences, those kind of things. But I play almost every day, you know, in my study over there by the amplifiers and all that. I got an amplifier behind me. I've kind of rearranged my room since my grandson went back to college. I've got my full study back. But anyway, as I think about all that this morning, and I think about budget guitars, I made a video last night where I talked about this a little bit. But look, any guitar that you buy, it doesn't matter whether it's a $1,500 guitar, a $3,000 guitar, a $700 guitar, or your Amazon 89 special Fojill Telecaster, you're going to have to set all those guitars up, or you're going to have to pay somebody to set up those guitars. Now, are there unicorn guitars out there? Sure. What's a unicorn guitar, you might ask? A unicorn guitar is a guitar that you purchase that needs no setup. There's no sharp frets. There's no high frets. You don't have to do anything. It's perfectly intonated. All the tuners are stout, and there's no slack in those. The bone is cut perfectly. The strings are pristine. Look, if you bought a guitar that you didn't have to do anything to, that's awesome. Good for you. Most of us, though, the everyday experience for most people is you buy a guitar, and any guitar you buy is going to require a good setup. That's just sort of a basic rule of thumb. And you either need to learn how to do the setup yourself, or you need to farm that out and pay somebody to do that. And by the time you buy whatever guitar you're going to buy, if you're going to have somebody set it up, just tack on an extra $100 to $150 to pay that person to do it for you. and you're going to have to buy new strings, and you may need a new nut, or you may need something, okay? You may need a part. And again, that really doesn't matter how much the guitar costs. My Squire Classic Vibe costs $450, and I had to do as much with that as I'm going to have to do to this $89 Fojill neck. I'm just telling you the truth and shaming the devil this morning, okay? I've got no financial interest in lying to you this morning about anything. I've got some high frets. I've got sharp fret ends. You know what I had on my, this is an $89 guitar. Do you know what I had on my $450 Squire Classic Vibe? I had high frets and sharp fret ends. Firefly, same thing. It was a $200 guitar. The Fojill FTL 60, couple high frets and just a couple of sharp fret ends. All that to say, you're going to probably have to do fret work to almost any guitar that you buy. If you found a guitar and you're playing it in the local shop, you know, all of us who are buying on Amazon or buying online, even I bought my Squire Classic Vibe from Fender themselves. And so it doesn't matter if you're buying anything online, you haven't seen it, you haven't touched it, you haven't felt of it. That's a factor. And I also know that I've walked through guitar stores before, and I would see a guitar hanging on the wall, and I'd look at the price and I look at the model, I like the way it looks. The first thing that I do is I go over to it and I do this, right? And if it's an $800 guitar and it's got sharp fret edges, guess what? I ain't interested in that. Why? Because I know I'm going to have to spend my own personal time, which brings me, stop buying budget guitars if you don't know how to do the work yourself. 2, if you don't have the time to do the work. I had a great conversation this morning with a person in the comments of another video. And one of the things we brought up was just the fact that for some people, this is enjoyable. This is enjoyable to me personally. It's not prescriptive to you. If you don't dig doing this, look, if you don't dig doing this, you're not watching this video anyway. If you're watching this video, chances are you're somewhat interested in buying budget guitars and modifying them. So for those of us who are in that club, I find this to be relaxing and enjoyable. Therapeutic is a word I might even use. And the brother I was talking to this morning in the comments of another video was saying, yeah, man, you know, I don't let anybody else mow my yard, man. I want to mow my own yard. I like the satisfaction of looking at my yard and saying, man, that's a pristine front yard. You know, I did that. Well, that's all I'm saying about guitars. There is value in that. And if you don't find value in one, knowing how to set the guitar up and doing the work, and 2, if you don't find value in the time spent of getting your fingers cut and you're messing something up and spending hours on these kinds of projects, stop buying budget guitars, man. That's not your thing. Now again, if you don't have the skill set and you don't have the tools, you know, basic tools of the trade, so to speak, you know, you got to have a fret rocker, you've got to have some kind of file where you're going to address a sharp fret edges. You're going to need to have some kind of string gauge, or you could do all that by eye and by feel. You do you. That's what I say. None of this is prescriptive. I've got a little pickup height tool that I use. I've got some first fret measurement type stuff. I've got some neck relief measurement type tools. Do you need all this stuff? Probably not. Everything with playing guitar is player preference. You set your guitar up however you want to set it up. If you want to eyeball it and get kind of in the ballpark of something, look, if the guitar feels good in your hands, if it sounds good to your ears, and more importantly, if it calls you, and I'm talking about call you to play it, you walk in a room and see that baby and cannot pick it up, that's the kind of guitar you want, right? So I'm making a project list this morning, and a part of my project list is, I see project lists in kind of three categories, okay? The first category is just time. How much time is it going to take me? What is my time investment? All of our time is worth something. Every person ought to know what an hour of their time is worth in their life. That's true in all areas of life. And so what is going to be my time factors, things that I have to consider in this particular, well, let's take this project, okay? This is the $89 Fojill Telecaster. It's for my grandbaby. Clearly, she's 9. And so that means for this project is different than my Firefly project and my Fojill Relic project. This guitar right here. It's different because I didn't care, clearly, what this guitar looked like. I didn't care if I dinged it. I didn't care if I scratched it. I didn't care if I accidentally scraped something. It's a Relic guitar. What are you going to do to it? And I'm not even going to put the disclaimer of, no, I'm not trying to look like I've been playing this guitar for 40 years. Well, I guess I just did. It was just a cheap Telecaster that I could purchase, an inexpensive Telecaster that I could purchase and do my thing to it. This guitar is different though. So when I think about this project, this is for my grandbaby. So what that means is I'm going to be very careful, although if you watch the under the hood videos, you saw me almost really damage this with my drill. And so that's going to affect and change the way I approach this guitar. I'm going to be gentler. I'm going to be more careful not to ding it if I should replace any of the electronics. And it's for my grandbaby. I more than likely will. I may or may not have parts on the way as we speak. I will put, some kind of towel or cover over the guitar while I solder. With the Relics, man, I just take out the control panel and solder. And if a drop of solder gets on a Relic, I don't really care. But this is different, okay? Now, so time. So one, I need to slow my roll. And the more I do these projects, the more I learn how valuable it is to pace myself, to breathe, to take my time, to set a guitar up one night, let it sit overnight, and maybe throughout the day, and then pick it up. Let things settle, okay? It's wood and screws. Things need to settle. At least that's what I'm learning in my journey. Time. So for me, because this is for my grandbaby, this neck is thicker than I'd like it to be. So I'm going to have to spend time sanding down. Hopefully, I can take some of the meat off the back of this. And I've never done that before. So much of what I do are things that I've never done before. So don't watch. This is not like a do what Ted does. You go watch other people to find out how to do something right. This is just where I talk guitars and life and talk about my journey. So I'm going to take some, hopefully, I'm going to take some of this off in the back. I'm going to sand it down. I'm going to put some True Oil on it, some gun oil, and I'm going to probably sand off Fojill, not because that's trying to make it look like something else, but I may personalize it some for my granddaughter, or I may not. Who knows? We'll find out in the final reveal of things. So I do know that time is what we're talking about, the time investment. So I'm going to have to take my time to sand that neck down where her hand will feel more comfortable on this. Time. I'm also going to take the time to do what I may or may not always do. So again, none of this is prescriptive to you. It's just my journey, right? So on my guitars, I don't spend always, I do from time to time, but I don't always tape up the fretboard before I do file work. Because on my guitars, I don't really care if they get scratched up, if they get, if I cut into the board a little bit, which I've got the right tools. If I take my time, I won't do, but life happens, right? These frets are really shiny, but there's several that are unlevel and they're very sharp on the sides. So time. So I'm going to take the time to tape every fret, okay, on the fretboard. And then I'm going to one by one round all these frets on the end. I'm going to get all these sharp burrs off, okay? And then, because I've got more than enough frets that need attention, I will more than likely take the time to level all the frets myself, okay? Now, so there's time in that. The time to sand this, the debris and the on the back of the neck, that's not a big time investment. So I got time in that, okay? So time. All of that is going to cost me time. Stop buying budget guitars if you don't have the time to put into them. Okay, again, you can farm it out, which destroys the whole logic of buying a budget guitar, in my view. But if you're going to buy a budget guitar, count the time investment. Okay, parts. Now, it's very important that you don't buy anything that you don't need, particularly if you're buying budget guitars because you're on a budget, okay, then you more than likely should not be interested in spending any more money than what you spent. Okay, this is an $89 Amazon purchased Telecaster. Okay, I bought it, came 3 days later. It was in the biggest box in the world and a very small box inside that had nothing in it but this guitar and a dust cover type gig bag. Not much to talk about at parties. Complimentary, cord and Allen keys. But when you buy a budget guitar, you got to count the cost of time. You've got to count the cost of parts. Now, what I need to do before, that's probably not true in this case. Okay, so let me put I'll put a caveat on it. So I'm just looking at, while we're talking guitars in life, I'm just looking at the output jack, and it's just your basic import jack. It worked last night. I did a quick sound check and everything works electronic wise, but that's pretty cheap jack. So what I would encourage you to do is that in all of your journeys, that when you get a budget guitar, check things out, man. If the tuners, even if they're the most inexpensive import tuners, if they work, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay, that's just my point of view. Okay, same thing with the output jack. If this output jack works, why would you spend money upgrading something that works? Okay, if this has the dime size pots, it has kind of a box switch in it. I did all this in an unboxing last night, but apparently I'm going to go ahead and take this apart since we're just having fellowship talking about guitars and life. And, man, if the dime size pots and the box switch works for you, if it functions well, if the guitar sounds good to your ears, you don't necessarily have to replace all this, but you might want to, okay? So all that to say, you've got to count the cost of parts, okay? So maybe what I could do in the comments is down in the description of the video, maybe I can put a list of just basic Telecaster parts. It'll be Telecaster specific, but you'll get the idea. I know that pots, I buy floor 250K full-size pots and put in my Telecasters, and those run, I think I can get 2 pots for the low price of $6, okay? A switch, you can get a switch anywhere, $8 to $15. You can get the Gigsby if you want, or the switchcraft if you want. You could spend probably as much money as you want to on a switch, but that's probably what I'm going to do. Saddles. Now, usually on a Telecaster, what I would do is I would go out and get Gotoh brass compensated saddles because Gotoh is my go-to. This is for my 9-year-old grandbaby. Is intonation a thing when she's trying to learn how to play the guitar and see if she even likes it? I don't know. So I've got pickups. You heard the pickups in the sound check video. Maybe you didn't. You can go watch that. I'll drop it in the description as well. But, maybe for a 9-year-old that's learning to play guitar, those are perfectly fine. Now, if this was my guitar, I would do the evaluation, okay? I do practice what I preach, okay? For the most part. I will, if this were my guitar, I would already have the parts coming, and I would just do to it what I do to all my Telecasters, okay? I'd put my preferred pots, my preferred switch, brass compensated saddles. I'd put the pure tone output jack. And I've got some pickups, the Artec Big Pole Unequal 5 pickups that I'm digging, and a couple other Telecasters. And I would just get all that and throw it in here. But I do want you, as you're thinking about whether or not you should buy a budget guitar, stop buying budget guitars if you don't know how to do the work. Stop buying a budget guitar if you don't enjoy doing this kind of work. Stop buying a budget guitar if you don't have the time. You got to count the cost of your time. Stop buying budget guitars if you don't have the money to spend on parts, okay? Again, the key caveat, the exception is, don't buy a part that you don't need. And please don't let anybody on the internet tell you what parts you need. You do you, man. Hey, whatever kind of situation you got rocking on your Saturday, man, wherever you are in your guitar journey. I hope it's a great day for you. I hope it's filled with joy. Things that you love and people you love, man. Rock on with your bad selves, and I'll catch you down the road.